Like and follow if you love horror. There were some creature comforts, though. She offered me some coffee, something we didn't have access to after we were moved into the mobile lab at medical. Of course, at this point, coffee wasn't much help for my weary mind, but the gesture of kindness was appreciated all the same. Once I was settled, the general threw it all on the table for me. I'll be blunt, we need a way to kill it, even at the cost of the host. This is spreading through the base uncurtailed, and we're fighting a losing battle. We've been using our dogs to identify and capture each host, but they've started immediately lashing out at the dogs, killing them as quickly as they can. We're now so damn short on dogs, at one point we pulled horses from the stable on base. Now the horses are all dead, and I'm afraid it gets worse. One of the ship captains approached from the back of the room holding a small, strange device. He placed it on the desk next to the general. This is an improvised explosive device pulled off of one of them. Another similar device was used to detonate an individual with the infection. All 20 soldiers within the blast were infected, the shift captain explained. We've identified the explosive materials and placed all traces under lock and key at a secret location known only to command. They're adapting, and fast. It's only a matter of time until they figure out where the explosives are, or something even worse. The general's voice was a little hoarse now, and she was deadly serious in tone. Regarding our independent water supply as our last bunkerhead, there we set up tactical nuclear device to detonate. Our plan is to slowly fall back to that position, eventually even abandoning medical, and blow the nuke as the last resort. She let that last point sink in. It took a lot as I was nearly blacked out from the stress. We'll be moving your mobile lab there with as many of the specimens as we can safely bring with us. And the other specimens? I knew she meant the 3 men in the glass boxes. What if we could cure them? I didn't even have the chance to ask about getting samples of prions from Chicago or our quarantine procedures. Only a few minutes earlier, and I was expecting to sell Sylvia's possible cure to General. Now it was clear we'd never get that option. Can you honestly tell me you can produce a cure in the next 12 hours, if we even have that much time? The General Malek asked, but it was rhetorical. Our best estimate is that in the next 12 hours we'll be completely overrun. The shift captain was just as blunt. We are already begun placing all specimens in the incinerator. Our problem is that this operation had led to more infections. Even with hazmat suits, it's exceptionally difficult to bring down any of the infected other than the messy way. They're practically counting on it. Our only available method is to bring them down with small arms, incinerate all traces, and hope none of the defending units were infected in the process. The words were all dismissive. Specimen, units, infected. These were people, but it was so clinical and calloused. They were incinerating human beings, likely even if they were alive. A cure is simply not viable. General Maddox could see the shock on my face. We both know that it could take weeks we don't have. She was wrong. It could take years. I need you to focus on preventing spread, even at the cost of the host's life. You're asking me to murder sick people without even trying to cure them. I couldn't fathom it. Your sick people are carrying an intelligent, programmable microbe for the purposes unknown that is destroying the defenses in a military base with access to nukes and other weaponry. She made the stakes crystal clear. We no longer have that option. In less than 12 hours, the base will be overrun unless we can stop the spread. My voice cracked. I couldn't believe what I was saying. Any forward units could prepare themselves with a toxic level of heavy metal poisoning. Cobalt, chromium, heavy silver, toxic levels of copper, potentially even arsenic if we can safely control the dose. After direct contact, it should retard the nanites enough to prevent the spread. The last part squeaked out of my throat as it choked up. You'll have to randomly distribute toxic levels of multiple heavy metals to each unit, and they'll have to take them before engaging in combat. For most, it will guarantee a slow, painful death once metabolized. This includes many other side effects that aren't particularly pretty. The only ones who will survive will be those selected for heavy silver or copper, and depending on the dose, it can cause permanent harm. Even still, this will only slow the nanites down, as it will adapt if not completely eradicated. However, it could give you some time. I broke into tears. That will do, Miss Winters. The general gestured for me to sit at her desk across from her. You will also have to be issued one of these heavy metals. I can offer you something more merciful if you'd like. We have the resources for these kinds of uncomfortable undertakings. They are painless. The word painless snapped me to attention and brought me out of my heavy malaise. I looked up. My puffy eyes met the general. They were unnaturally kind. I won't need one, as I may be one of the last to survive given my station. I request the keys to detonate the nuclear device. I am afraid I can't offer that. The general seemed pleasantly shocked. There are only two such keys. They are detonated remotely off base after a code is sent to them. That code is sent by an isolated encrypted network. I don't even have access to it. If the bunker head fails, we won't be allowed to make that decision. It will be made for us. What do we do if the network is severed? I looked back and forth between the general and the watch captain. What are redundant systems? If one fails, what's the backup? Excuse me. Literally a damn booby trap, the watch captain explained. We have created a sophisticated detonation mechanism that we hope the invading forces will not be able to recognize before setting it off. The independent water supply is at the power plant and is our most defensible position. It is extremely unlikely it'll come to that, even knowing how to locate and sever the independent encrypted channel is bordering on improbability. She didn't sound certain, even with her commanding tone, given the mental exhaustion we were all suffering from. We'll be moving you there immediately. I don't have to tell you the impending meltdown will guarantee the eradication of all life on base and near it for miles. There was another pause. Are you sure you don't want that escape clause handy? I'll take one for myself and each of my staff. I felt so damn dead inside. How would I even tell them? We'll escort you back to the mobile lab and prepare it for transportation. She gestured to Nunez. We expect to have doses of heavy metal pills prepared within the hour after moving your lab to the plant. Nunez promptly but cautiously stepped to my side. He offered his hand as gentle as his rugged disposition would allow. Also his likely exhaustion. Likewise, he guided me out with an armed escort prepared, dogs included. It was a comfort to see at least a few surviving dogs, but I was also near paranoid of everything. As this was a learning nanite, at some point it might figure out how to hide from the dogs as well. Within moments of our journey, we were approached by another guard dispatch. Immediately, the dogs started barking. Nunez's personal guards raised their weapon without hesitation and commanded the dispatch to disarm. Confused, they did not comply. All of this was happening so fast, none of them could understand why they were being targeted. Even though they knew the dogs nearby were freaking out, they all genuinely seemed shocked. Lay your weapons on the ground and prepare for immediate inspection, Nunez commanded for the 5th time without success. They were just too damn frightened, or in denial. Likely they understood all it took was one dog barking in their direction, and they'd be stuffed into an incinerator. I hoped, at the very least, they'd be merciful enough to put a bullet in the head of anyone who didn't pass the dog test. But that might have been a mercy they couldn't afford, and they all knew it. A bullet meant blood splatter, which meant more potential infections. Worse still, as Nunez barked commands after command, they continuously did not comply. Maybe because they were tired and frightened. Maybe it was because they were too dumb and shocked to understand. There was also the possibility that they were confused as to how any of them could have been infected. The infected had not yet adapted well enough for its victims to behave normally, nor master our language, and was still largely animalistic, even if clever. If none of them had been behaving strangely